There is good and evil in the world. There's more good than evil, especially. As much as there is good in the world, it can only take one evil person to take the lives of many. And unfortunately, that was the case on July 19th, 2012. West Network Train 1840 was departing from Liberty City and its destination to Roblox Island in Pinewood. The West Network overnight train was making its return from Fox River Grove, Illinois. It had just departed Liberty City around 5:30 in the morning. Its next stop was New Haven, Connecticut. But however, the train would never make it to Connecticut. Further down the line, there is a junction called Albany Junction that switches tracks to many different locations. One way is for passenger trains, while the other way is to a freight yard for freight trains. At the junction, there was a Roanoke Southern coal train waiting at a red signal for another train to pass through. Little did the crew know, they'd be witnessing something very horrifying. The train consisted of Roanoke Southern, 4050, and 15 coal cars. The West Network train was going about 70 miles per hour when it entered the junction. However, it passed a red signal before that. You may be wondering, how come the engineer didn't know about this? Well, the reason may shock you later on. Meanwhile, nobody knew that they had passed a red signal, except for one conductor. That one conductor was Alex Maithwaite, who was horrified to see that they were passing a red signal. Maithwaite telephoned the engineer, but the engineer never responded, so instead he went to warn the passengers. But by then, he was far too late. After the accident, silence covered the tracks. The two crew members of the Roanoke Southern train heard the crash from behind and saw that almost all their freight load has derailed and tipped over. The conductor looks through his window and sees a huge fireball. The conductor went to go investigate what was going on. Upon arrival, he was horrified. He could hear people screaming and being burned alive from the fire that leaked into the coaches. The West Network train's fuel tanks leaked into the coaches, and it was their fuel, and started the fire. The conductor immediately called the engineer and told dispatch to call every single rescue unit as possible. People who were in the sleeper cars or the dining car were the ones who were really unlucky, being burned alive or being choked by the smoke. Now, the crew of the Roanoke Southern train were fine and helped passengers get out. But the same can't be said for the people on the West Network train. 20 passengers are dead. So is the dining attendant that was on board at the time, and the unnamed female engineer who was driving. It became the 4th worst accident in Rails Unlimited history, and the 10th worst accident on Roblox Island. Then there's a question. What in the world caused this accident to happen, and why? After the accident, much was to follow. West Network and Rails Unlimited decided to do some research on the engineer. And it turns out the unnamed engineer had a bad reputation with West Network in the past 5 years. Many employees complained about her behavior and the way she acted, and when she was off duty, one of them said she acted like a madman's creation. And the West Network did really nothing about it. In the end, the engineer was blamed for the crash. But the West Network themselves came under heavy fire because they knew the unnamed engineer had a bad past and often acted a bit mental, and they did nothing of the source. They also failed to report this to Rails Unlimited. Rails Unlimited was obviously super pissed about this. In the end, 22 in total died, and 79 were severely injured. It has been 7 years since this accident, and yet some rail agencies just don't learn their lessons. And nowadays, the West Network struggles to stay in business with Rails Unlimited. That even often includes Metropolis Link, which is already in enough financial trouble with the lack of Bombardier coaches, locomotives, and other stuff. In the end, the 2 West Network trains, 3 coach cars, and the dining car were scrapped, while the cafe car, the dome car, and the coach cars remained with minor damage, but still were operable. All we can do is pray and hope another accident like this doesn't happen ever again.